Okay, here we go.
Test.
Roll music?
Let's roll it.
Welcome to the Unknown Morning Show.
It's the show where we explore radio,
Podcasting,
TV,
gear,
gearheads,
and making money with a hot mic and other stuff too.
This is the Unknown Morning Show.
I'm Mandee Montana.
And I'm Chuck McKinley.
Hi, can you hear us,
boy.
Can you hear
Hello.
us, JR?
Yeah, you sound great.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me. How are you guys this morning?
We're doing
We're
terrific.
good. I was sharing Justin Timberlake videos from last night in Dallas with Chuck.
Oh, did you go to the show in Dallas?
I did. I got free tickets, so I was like, yeah, I'll go sit in the nosebleeds and enjoy.
Wow.
And why not? Well, look, it's part of our broadcast DNA. If somebody says, I have free, you say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So of course.
Right. So it was fun.
Don't matter what it is.
It makes for a late evening then
Yeah, I
for
think
you.
I got in at 2 a.m. It's different at 41 than 21, but you know, I'm surviving. I have coffee.
I don't know if I'd have made this had I done that.
Yeah.
Well, priorities, right? We've been looking forward to this, JR.
Oh, well, thank you. And likewise. Is there a super easy trivia coming? Or is that,
I have to tell you, I said to Mandee, I said, I never understand if super easy trivia, if it's like he's getting after me because I took the lazy man's way out. True story, honest to God. I'm over at 99.3 Talk, so it's past my music radio days, and we're doing like Super Bowl pregame or something. Brian Houston's going to be going there. And Dave says, what are we going to call it? I said something like, oh, why don't you just call it like the, Super Bowl pregame party? Keep it simple. And Dave goes, done. And I go, Dave, I was just kidding. I was kidding, Dave. But, oh gosh, I don't know. You know what though? I was sitting there because we were kind of reconstructing your career on paper, JR. J.R. Schumann with us on the Unknown Morning Show. And I went to your website, JR on the Radio. I found that last night. And so I see,
wow.
Yeah, there's the samples. It was maybe 10, 15 years ago. You're a little bit younger, a little bit. And I see resume and I go, excellent. I'll get all the information I need. And I get the big old 404 on that one. But man, it was hard to find. I found when you were leaving Sirius, I saw some information. So we were kind of reconstructing your career from, of course, Mandee and I know you from when you were at Kicks and Longview programming. And we were debating amongst ourselves. When you left Kicks, did you go to Arkansas? I remember Florida.
Yeah. So, no, I came from El Dorado, Arkansas to KYKX.
Ah, there it is.
And then I went from KYKX to overnights on KPLX, and I did that in Dallas for about a year, and then went from there to Birmingham. I was only in Birmingham for maybe 6 or 8 months, and then they transferred me to Orlando.
Okay.
And then I was in Orlando, and then back to Dallas, and then Sirius XM.
Okay.
But yeah, it was, it's been a ride. The most of my career, the title of your show is fitting for the most of my career up until the last couple of jobs, I think. But yeah, no, I saw it real quick. So I started, my very first job was in promotions at Radio Disney in Dallas. I did promotions at Radio Disney and at KBIL. And
sweet.
Then I went to the big city of Woodville, Texas.
Here you go.
On 1,000-watt AM.
Yep.
And I think there are more people can hear me in my house right now than ever heard me on that radio station. And then, so I was at Woodville, and then I went to worked briefly when I say briefly, like not even a month, at a radio station in Grapeland. I took the job having no idea what they were going to pay me or what the job was going to be. And then I got there and realized, oh yeah, no, I can't do this. And so, then left there, went to work for a sports talk station that had just turned on in Dallas, and then they never paid me. And so I was there for just a month or two and realized I was not ever going to get paid. Then went to Kix 108 in Victoria, Texas for Gap Broadcasting. And that's actually where I got my first on-air job in Tyler. I actually would do weekends on KNUE from Victoria.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Then El Dorado, Arkansas. Then Longview, Dallas, Birmingham, Orlando, Dallas, Nashville.
And then when you were in Dallas the second time, that was for, you were ops for both stations, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I oversaw KSCS and KPLX and and KLIF FM at the time was like a some sort of rhythmic top 40, but it was a rim shot signal or whatever. And but I oversaw that in between program directors, which there were several in between program directors. It felt like
one of those things, huh? Growing pains.
Yeah.
JR,
But my dream was always to be on the radio in Tyler, and I'm from East Texas.
That's what I was about to ask
from
you.
Tyler, yeah.
I thought you were. That's what I was about to say. Remind me, but didn't you grow up in East Texas?
Yeah, so I grew up, I spent most of my life in a suburb of Dallas, but originally from Tyler, and then spent part of my senior year at Tyler Lee. And I guess it's not Tyler Lee anymore.
Legacy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, but my grandfather lived out of Lake Palestine. But so it was, being from Tyler, I grew up around there all the time in the summers and winters and vacations and weekends and whatever. And so it was like, I feel like I grew up listening to Bobby Bell and all those, the legends of East Texas radio, Tom Perryman, and then it was always a goal. And fortunately for me, I had that opportunity twice to get back to East Texas and be on the radio. It truly was a highlight for me of my career.
Well, I don't think many people that are as well traveled as you would say that Tyler Longview was a career highlight, but we'll take it.
It was. It really was. There's a lot of great memories, from East Texas, and like I said, and just my grandfather calling me and air checking me after my show every day.
Oh, cool.
Commenting on what I had to say, things he thought I should have said differently, all of those things. But
was your grandfather in the business?
No, he spent his entire career for the Texas Parks with the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department out at Tyler State Park.
Okay, all right.
And but yeah, so I was the only radio person in my family ever.
What attracted you to radio? Because you did something else before. Remind me, were you in EMS?
I was at East Texas Medical Center.
Yeah.
And I lived out in White House and was in several different places and ran the ambulance for East Texas Medical Center. But I don't know. I can make the joke to you guys. People say, "Why'd you get out of EMS and get into radio?" I say, "Well, I got tired of long hours and low pay, so I got into radio."
There's an apostrophe there somewhere.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I was always mesmerized and fascinated by, the voices on the other side of the radio. And it was always something that was just so interesting to me, and never really thought of it as something I would never do. It was just something that those people did, and how fortunate and lucky they must have been to be able to do that. And, a lot of life happened, when one particular year it seemed, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna screw this. I'm just going to go and start over doing something else. And, I was like, radio's always seemed interesting. Why not? And so I just left Tyler and moved to Dallas and enrolled in this now defunct broadcasting school, and because I thought that must be how you do it, right? And
right.
Did they say, JR, we're going to give you the sound of experience?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
My broadcast school did that too. Yeah.
And
then you learn.
So yeah, and it actually, it gave me the knowledge enough to be able to walk into a radio station and sound like I knew what I was talking about, regardless of whether I did or not. And, and then I just, like I said, just kind of dove in. And, my first job, I said I left in, fairly stable career in EMS to go to work for an AM daytimer, basically in Woodville, Texas, making poverty wages. And my family was like, you have really done it now. Congratulations.
Gone around the bend, huh?
Yeah. But it's been easily, I mean, the best thing that I could have ever done. Like it's been a ride that I could never have imagined. Sometimes I wish I could have gotten off, but it's been truly one of the most rewarding and remarkable things that, I could have ever imagined.
I think, JR, too, that a lot of us that have been in it for a while don't even think about it in terms of job. I tell people that I work with that I walk into the radio station every day, take a deep breath and say, okay, this could be the last day doing this. Who knows? But yeah, it's something that I'm very, very, very thankful to still be able to do this, and to be able to do something different. Went from playing George Strait records to sports talk to production director to this. It's been just a crazy little ride, but it's been fun too. And I've learned a lot too. Buy me a cup of coffee, Mandee.
Yeah.
I've seen that on other podcasts. That's literally...
Yeah, it's like a virtual tip jar. It's really that simple. So you go to the show notes, click Buy Me a Coffee, and then you have an opportunity to support the show in any way you like. Imagine yourself going to coffee with Chuck and myself and saying, hey, I like what you do on the show. I'm going to buy you a cup of coffee. Only all you have to do is click a link. It's that simple.
Yeah,
no, that's great. I was a big fan of KTBB. Is David Smoke still on the radio?
Dave's in Waco.
Really?
He has the website, right, Mandee?
Yeah, Sikkim 365.
Okay.
He's got a YouTube channel and a whole production. Yeah, his son Craig Smoke is on the show with him. And Paul, I can't remember what Paul's last name is. I know I'm putting you on the spot, Chuck. But
no, because Paul's been with him since day one there.
Yeah, so
I remember that.
David left Tyler and went to Waco, and he was working for a cluster there. And then I think he ended up being ops at that cluster before the Sikkim 365 situation kind of developed.
Wow.
He's doing well.
It was one of those where, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mandee, where you were talking the cluster. Didn't they have like 4 or 5 AM signals that when you put them all together, just covered all of, central Texas?
A pretty big cluster. I don't remember. It's been about, he left here, I think in 2010. To go to Waco.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't remember all of the details, but I do remember the cluster was like either 4 or 6 stations, because I do think Chuck's right. I think there were a couple of AMs maybe that.
It was 10 because...
Oh, 10? Okay.
But the reason why I say that is, or maybe a little before, because I ended up over 99.3 Talk FM when we went quasi sports talk.
Right.
And then part of what we were doing is on like Monday Night Football, we would sit there and have, during... I think it was during high school sports season, football season, David would come on and I would stay like an extra hour after board opping him. So,
Yeah. So
huge.
Wow.
Yeah, he's done well. It's exciting for David.
That's great. Yeah. And way to sound out of touch with Tyler Radio. Ask about the guy who left 15 years ago.
Well,
I guess he was right about when I did, I guess.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's not like you haven't been doing your own thing and growing your own career.
You've been busy.
You've been
Come
pretty
on.
busy. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to tell you, there was on the resume, there's a thing that's not on the resume. I actually got hired at Sunny in Tyler and was offered the job. And this is when I believe I was in Arkansas.
Okay.
I believe got offered the job, and the program director that hired me, we're going through the whole process. I get hired, and then like he calls me one day and says, "Hey, yeah, you've got the job," and then the next day calls me and goes, "Hey, so I'm leaving. I quit. I don't work there anymore." And he goes, "But I put in a good word for you for the people that are coming in after me." And I was like, okay. And I was like, so what do I do now? And he's like, well, call this person and follow up. And there's a reason it's not on my resume, I guess. But
wow.
Yeah, that I was hired and fired before I ever even started.
Interesting.
But so I was And then I ended up making it to KYKX, but yeah, almost was at Sunny.
Yeah, that station, man, it was a banger for a long time.
Yeah.
It was a cash cow. And then when Access One bought out Waller Broadcasting, when that transition happened in 2006, I was a newbie and had been hired on the ranch. And I kind of came over right after that buyout happened. And I watched that station go from here and just backslide because of the changes that the, corporate structure was trying to make it better.
They wanted brighter music, personalities, and they learned the worst lesson ever, which is do not screw with your cash cow when it shouldn't be screwed with. And then they did, and they lost everything on that one.
It was sad to watch because it had nothing to do with the super talented people that they brought in.
No.
It was just like people are so habitual that, when you mess with their radio station, if it's not what they're expecting the next day, they're probably going to go find something else, and they may or may not come back to it.
I never thought about, and Mandee brings up a good point. It's like on KKUS, Classic Country, and that was a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, when they made some changes with KNUE, and Big D and Bubba were free agents, with lack of a better term. So they picked them up on the ranch to do mornings. And, anybody that knows programming 101 would go, well, if you're playing, if you're playing top 40 country in the morning and the rest of the day you're classic country, something's going to give. And their ratings have just gotten tanked big time.
Yeah.
I remember when that happened, I was at Sirius XM, and I mean, that was big news in the business, was that, Big D and Bubba were out at KNUE. And then, because I was sitting there and I was going, well, surely one of the other stations will pick them up. And I was surprised that it was the ranch, but they had success early, right? Like it was kind of created a splash, but then it just didn't last. Is that kind of what happened?
Well, I don't know about their numbers, but overall, it hasn't. As they've gone along, I think the last book they had like a 2.7 overall.
Yeah.
And when Mandee and I were there, we pretty much had 4s and 5s, and about every third book, our 18 to 34-year-old males would kick in. We get about a 6 share. So it was ribs and beer time, always,
Yeah.
And my rule was, hey, you work hard, ribs and beer, let's do this. So
Exactly. You mentioned the ranch. I have a funny Tom Perryman story that was before I was in radio. I was on the ambulance, and we were listening to Tom one morning, and he was talking about he had gone through his attic or personal boxes, his personal record collection or something, and had found this old 45, I guess, with handwritten label on it that said Elvis Presley 1950 something, and so teased it for a while, as they do in radio, and so we're sitting there listening, and so he goes, all right. Bob was working with him at the time.
Yes.
Our good friend Bob Malden. And so he goes, all right, Bob, let's play this. So he goes, I found this. This is maybe a never before heard Elvis Presley record. And tells us about Elvis being at his house and all this stuff. So they play this song, and I'm sitting in the ambulance. I'll never forget. I'm listening to this, and I'm going, God, what is this? And the song finishes, and you hear the microphone come on. Nobody's saying anything. And Tom says, Bob, I don't think that was Elvis.
He hadn't listened to it before. He just did it live on the air. That was what was so great about Tom. Oh,
nobody had bothered to cue that up before, maybe listen to a verse, nothing. No, just put it on. This is an never before heard Elvis record.
Both Mandee and I eventually had our crack at producing Tom, and man, it was always just a trip,
Were you ever in the Tyler Studios, JR, to like be a fly on the wall for what happened for the Tom show?
Oh yeah.
It was such a trip. Yeah. I think I was producing him one morning, and he was sliding CDs across you could audibly hear the CDs sliding across the table, and you'd cue it up. And he had the craziest stories. He was telling me stories one morning about Elvis and ending up in I don't remember if he told this on the air. It might have been off mic. He told about ending up like in a hotel room in Shreveport with nothing but his boots on or something.
What?
And I was like,
Okay.
Tom? At this point, Tom's in his 80s, and I'm thinking, my God, the stories that he's not telling us, you know?
Oh, my God. Can you imagine?
Yeah, my imagination was running wild, and I was thinking, what Miss Billy must have put up with? Can you imagine?
No.
Or what she got into that she never told us about. Like, there's no telling.
You know, I've never thought about it from that angle.
Have you not? Oh, I thought about it a lot. I was like,
well, yeah, but
who was she hanging with when he was at the concerts? You know,
she may have been party to it all.
She could have. Yeah, I don't know.
it's just Miss Billy's Miss Billy. I guess my mind could never go there. You know,
I get it. I was just thinking about how much fun I would have been having if I was around all of that crazy, you know?
Yeah.
From a young woman's perspective, because she would have been probably about my age at that time, right? So I was wondering, like, I'd have been in and around asking questions, wanting to hear about stories behind songs and
now
all the stuff on the road, man. That would have been something to be a part of.
And we'll never know.
I know. We've lost both Miss Billy now, and in addition to Tom, it's
been a couple of years for Miss Billy, maybe.
I think, a year or two. You know, JR, we were talking about the other day how much we wish that we had started this sooner so that we could have Tom share stories like this, because I don't know where recordings are of his show. I think they exist somewhere, but I don't know who has them, or, you know, I'd love to have an opportunity to edit some of them down and share them in this kind of format.
I know when we were at the ranch, I think, and I almost bet that we had something going on to where we were trying to, you know, stockpile them off the skimmer kind of as backup and just as backup. I think we wanted to do salute and, you know, just in case and all that. But
this is a guy that was on the radio for what, 60 years?
I think so. He was I think he was the first overnight host on which station in Nashville? Was it WSM?
Was it SM?
I think it was.
Probably.
But it had to be 65 years, right? He was 90.
His book, whenever he released his book, I think it said "Keeping It Country" for 65 years or something.
Yeah. I mean, 60 years almost seems short. As crazy as that sounds.
I guess he was 90. So probably, maybe closer to 70.
You probably saw this, JR. Were you ever at any restaurant when Tom would come in the restaurant? He would come in
yeah.
The man could just take over the joint. You know, he'd have the cowboy hat with the bumper sticker on there, you know. Hi, it's Tom from the ranch. And I can't tell you how many times I would mumble to myself, man's probably never paid for his lunch anywhere. and with good reason. And with good reason.
I was gonna say, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
You, $3.50.
Yeah.
Him, nothing. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, never spent $1 at Daniel Boone's for sure.
Definitely. Definitely.
Of course.
Well, JR, tell us some stories about Dallas radio. That's something that I sort of aspired to when I was younger. It's never happened for me. My entire career has been spent, well, I guess it's sort of done at this point, here in East Texas. But, I mean, what's it like working in Dallas?
Radio is radio, you know, from our side of it, right? I mean, it's you go into the room and you talk to yourself for 4 hours and you hope that there's other people listening.
Yes.
On the other side.
I like
Dallas, you know, Dallas was different in a sense that it's so big that you know, it's not like you can go into a restaurant on the Loop and know the people and see the same people every, you know, it's like in Dallas, it's so big, you know, and then, you know, and the demands of, you know, at a radio station that big with budgets it's, you know, ratings are, you live and die by them. And you get ratings weekly versus quarterly or whatever. And started radio with the dream of making it to the major leagues, you know, and you get to the major leagues and you realize, God, you know what? It really wasn't so bad out in East Texas. You know?
Right.
And, and it's just like, oh, you make more money. Yeah, but the cost of living is twice as much. But it's a lot of fun. I mean, I would be remiss to say it wasn't. And radio is a drug. Right?
Yes.
And it gets in you, and you get in a small market, and then you get your fix, and then you need a bigger, stronger dose, and you need a bigger market and a bigger market and a bigger market. And finally, you get to the point where I got in my career and finally just kicked the habit. But yeah. And so, it was that thrill, I mean, our offices were at the American Airlines Center, our
Nice.
driving and being in downtown and doing it was just that sort of that pinch me moment of just like, especially walking in that first time.
I bet.
Having been there, like my first time in Dallas was at the old Cumulus building. And it was like, I was at midnight, but I remember cracking the mic for the first time and being like, I'm about to talk on the Wolf. Like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And then to come back, a handful of years later, the weight of it was never lost on me. And it's just like, I mean, I went into KSCS. I went as operations manager. I'm overseeing KSCS, and Terry Dorsey is the morning guy.
Wow. And
I'm like, the hell am I going to say to Terry Dorsey? Mark Lewis for the Hawkeye, for that matter. Like,
yeah.
Like, what am I going to say? And I remember it was so funny. So the very first week, they asked for a story. So here's the story. So my first week, I just kind of observed everything and was listening and seeing how everybody did everything. And it was that Friday of my first week, and it was about 10 minutes before 10 or 15 before 10. So Terry Dorsey, and then we're about to get off the air. And so I just walked up the studio, pushed the studio door open, and I said, hey, I want to see you guys in my office at 10 o'clock. And then the door closed, and I went back and sat out of my office, and then panicked for about 15 minutes waiting for them to come into my office. But I had this, confidence. I want to see you guys in my office. And so I'll never forget. So they walk in and sit down, and Terry's already irritated, like, all right, kid.
Yeah. What you got?
What? And I just said, I told him, I said, I've been listening to your show for the last week. And I was like, what happened to the show that you guys used to do? Like, what happened to they have one of the greatest characters maybe ever in radio was Terry Dorsey and Hawkeye's character they had called the Temp. And it was this character that they would have a story about a company or something. And then, so the bit was always, then Terry calls the company, and the same woman answers the phone, and she's the temp there at her first day at that company. And it's a bit, and no matter what company, every time he calls somebody, she answers the phone. And it's hilarious. I'm like, where's that? Where's this? And he's like, oh, we're not allowed to do those anymore. We can't talk. We can't have breaks longer than, 2 minutes or whatever. And we can't do this. We can't do that. And I was just like, well, what if you could? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, no. You have 7 days. Mm-hmm. By the end of next week, I want some of the old stuff. I want that. It didn't have to be that bit, but something like bring that back.
Yeah. And
Terry and Hawkeye looked at each other, looked at me, and they're like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. And Terry says, hey, if this is a plan just so you can get us fired, fire me now. I'm like,
man, he's been through it.
Oh, yeah. And I'm like, no, really. That's what I want. And sure enough, and so they did. I mean, Monday or Tuesday, they had the Temp back on the air. They did it. And, we had it was about a year I worked with Terry before he retired. We had KSCS back top 1 or 2, 18 to 34 with,
Wow.
Terry Dorsey and Hawkeye. And Terry's in his, late 60s, early 70s. And it was just like, and because we had taken KSCS younger. And it was just like, but it was this, the old morning show. And the company had kind of written off as far as being competitive 1834. And it was us and Kid Craddock. And,
nice.
I say us, them,
Yeah.
and Kid Craddock battling it out. And it was I'll never forget. If this is a plan for you to get us fired, just go ahead and fire me now. Like, no. And he gets to the door and he turns around and he goes, "You're serious?" Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. And off they went. It was so funny. Terry, too, another famous Terry Dorsey is somehow my staff meetings and his doctor's appointments always lined up.
By chance.
Yeah. Just you wouldn't imagine how just the happenstance that happened. But it's like every single staff meeting I had. Sorry, pal, got a doctor's appointment. But yeah, we had a lot of fun. And then, but that was what got me into radio, was those big personalities.
Yeah.
And that's what made radio great. And it's where radio is still successful. That's why it's still successful. And, you take that out of the radio station and like, you might as well turn it off.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, there is no reason to listen really beyond that. I was, when I got to Sirius, I was on a panel and, at Belmont or somewhere, we're talking about radio, and several high ranking radio people, said to this panel, quote, well, I'll never forget, one guy said, "You got to understand, radio is not in the music business. We are in the advertising business." And I go, well, that's it. That's why
you're failing. Yeah.
Well, okay, you're saying the quiet parts out loud now, but it's like, and that's why it's was in the trouble it was starting to have then and where it is now. And it's just like, if you create a product that people want to be a part of, you can sell it and you'll have people lined up to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. But when you try to make a product you can sell,
100%. Yep.
And, but there's so many, there was the time I almost died at the Big Bass Bonanza.
Oh.
And, oh yeah.
I don't know this story.
Got super dehydrated, ended up in an ambulance, and don't remember like half of that day. Like at all. Like I don't remember being in the ambulance. I don't remember any of that. I just remember being, in a lot of trouble for going home early.
Right. That sounds accurate. Everybody worked that, and they worked it for 3 days, and you were there from sun up to sundown. And it was
like the second or third day.
Yeah, it's insane.
And it was about, because it was always nice and great weather too. Mm-hmm. No, it was blazing hot
or pouring rain.
Yeah, and I was just like, and I honestly don't know what I guess I passed out or something and it was sent home. And the next day, I guess it was day 3, because the next day I was back at work in the office and was not welcomed.
Yeah.
I did not get an, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" It was, "Do you know you missed cleanup? Do you know you missed?" And I was like, "Do you know I thought I was going to die."
Did you say, but I was unconscious?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was, and then, our morning show there, I don't know how our morning show there, was Tony and Chris, at that particular time.
I forgot about that show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've remained friends with them. They love to tell this story. We were on stage and, doing an announcement of some, large, biggest fish or something. I don't know. And, the general manager's son was on a 4-wheeler or like an ATV, and at full speed crashes into the back of the stage, which was the flatbed trailer, right? Slams into the back of the stage. Well, I'm standing just far enough behind Tony and Chris that where Tony is, I mean, he's headed off the stage. And so I just grabbed him by his belt and pulled him back up onto the stage. We regroup and everything else. To this day, they start the story with, let us tell you about the time JR saved Tony's life.
Wow.
But yeah, she crashed into the stage. I'll never forget.
The number of stories about that particular person that could be told is high.
Yeah.
And I only know about 3 of them, but I know that there are more because I heard the lore of, I mean.
Oh, yeah.
And the one that I remember, it's a really small one, but he used to do production in the dark.
Yeah.
He would go in the production room and turn off the lights and do his affidavits or syndicated programming or whatever small task he had been given. Right. He would sit in the dark and do it. And I would hear people from the Longview office be like, did you know this kid? We're kind of concerned about like his well-being.
Dark? Completely dark?
Yeah. Like
not like a nice gooseneck or anything like that?
No, it was just like the light of the computer screen.
Wow, that's even freaky by radio standards.
Right.
Yeah, we can be a freaky lot. Generally speaking.
Yeah.
Pitch black. Yeah, there's a lot of stories that I could probably share that I won't.
Yeah.
About about that particular cluster. Yeah. But
we don't share all of ours either.
No.
Maybe over drinks privately sometime we could swap a few, but
now that I would love to do. Yes. And when you asked me about a story, I was like, oh God, please don't be a story about, okay, Dallas, I could do that.
Yeah. But you probably saw a lot of great concerts if you were working at American Airlines Center. Do you have your pick of shows? All of them?
All of them. Yeah.
Anything extraordinary in that department? Like any kind of great interaction with somebody that surprised you or somebody that disappointed you that maybe you don't want to give their name?
What was also cool was, my office sat right outside the ticket studio.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I would be in my desk and look up and, Dirk Nowitzki walks by, or Mark Cuban, or Troy Aikman, or who knows, whatever. And some of the most random people too. You remember House Party, the movie with Kid and Play?
Yes.
They walked by one day and I was like, okay. But yeah, we did Miranda Lambert had a show, and we did a whole pet adoption event out in the plaza.
Yeah.
We did, if they were coming to the arena, they were pretty good about coming by. Yeah. I got to meet Mick Fleetwood. That was probably one of the coolest moments of my life. Yeah. From Fleetwood Mac, and one of the coolest cats ever. Like, you would expect him to be exactly as he is. And but we did, and it was fun too. It's like being there. We had the Fishbowl studio on the plaza too. So every show or major event, we would be down, broadcasting from there. That's where we did the Miranda pet event and have the artists in the studio behind the glass. You have the crowd out front. It was really cool. Maybe one of the most bizarre promotions I was ever part of. Thomas Rhett forget which record it was, but the record label marketing team decided they wanted to break the world, or I don't break or set or create. I don't know if there was an existing record that they tried to break, but the world's largest game of Twister.
Oh, I think I remember this story. Yeah.
And at AT&T Stadium, they set up like the world's largest Twister mat or whatever, and asked all these people to show up and play Twister. And you're probably sitting there going, that was probably a giant, and it was the biggest cluster you've ever, like, it was the most bizarre thing. And we're out there and you're trying to explain to people on the radio, no, really, come to AT&T Stadium and play Twister. We're going to break the record. I don't remember the album or why Twister, but I do remember being out there in the middle of this going, I bet this was a better idea on paper.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, and then setting up for concerts. I mean, you set up a concert at AT&T Stadium in the parking lot. Like it was fun. It was those moments of being, I caught it at the end too, I would say. Like, I think it's very different now. Everything is, but it was just a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, a lot of stress. And, because again, everything has to work. They know right away if it worked or not. And, you're always chasing the next thing. I survived putting pop records on KSCS. That was a thing that came from corporate. We were going to try that.
I remember that.
What kind of pop records?
Like, I mean, straight up pop records. Like we would play,
Katy Perry.
Kenny Chesney and Katy Perry or
Yeah.
Ellie Goulding.
Did people just say, "What the hell are you guys doing?"
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh sure.
Oh, I mean, there were threats of physical violence. Like people were calling, like it was bad. Part of it was,
Wow.
and looking back, sonically, it was probably one of the softer records we could have played. But the very first pop record we played on KSCS was the collaboration song 4 5 Seconds. You remember that song? It was, I think it was Beyonce and somebody else, but Kanye West was on it. So all like Kanye West showing up on KSCS sent people into orbit.
I believe it.
They must have said, "What April Fool's joke is this?"
Yeah. It was, we did that. So we, did that for a while, And, I thought I was going to have to move town, like just out of pure safety. And much less the damage it did to the radio station at the time. But, the people at the Wolf loved it. The Wolf staff loved it.
Oh, I bet they did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Play another Ed Sheeran record for us.
Wow.
I got to fill in for Bob Kingsley on the Countdown once.
Wow.
Awesome.
Because I was in Dallas. I got to do that. And I was sick. I filled in for him because he was sick. And then I wake up that morning sick.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, well, I can't call out.
Yeah.
Right. And so I go in and I'm drinking tea and sound awful. Like I'm on this nationally syndicated, the biggest country countdown, and I sound awful. It was a great and one of the more embarrassing experiences for me. There, I show up and they're like, we start talking, we start doing it. I can't talk. And they're like, Are you okay? Should you be doing this? Yeah, fine.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Fine. Yeah, roll. Here we go.
What was that experience like? Is it all scripted for you? Is it like a produced experience and you just come in and kind of read the script and present?
Yep. Not kind of. That's exactly what you do.
Yeah.
And there's the director on the line to,
giving you feedback.
To feedback. Oh, yeah, you go and redo that. Focus or whatever. But
wow.
Yeah, it's all written out verbatim. And it's written and then timed to that script. So you have to say that script at the pace for it to all work. And that was a really eye-opening thing too. You walk in and it's like you realize, oh wow, there's a whole team of people behind this stuff. It's like, it was Bob, but it was like, Ken Halford, his producer, was one of the most amazing people I've ever had the opportunity to work with. The studio and it was remarkable. For some reason, I was never invited back. I don't know. I did it once and then that was it. I never got to do it again. And then I left there and was at Sirius XM. And then that was a whole other thing. Like they were all about content.
Yeah.
And so, and it was like being in radio in the early days because we had such a huge audience and such a huge reach that we were breaking artists like by ourselves, launching careers and whatever. And it was just like, it was like being in the old days of radio and like seeing that impact, having the connection with the audience, and then playing something and having the audience react to it and instantly, and then you play a song that nobody's ever heard, and then you can see it jump to number one on iTunes within an hour. Like it's truly changing, these artists' lives. Like that was so much fun.
I listened to, now I'm Alt Nation on a regular, regular basis, and their show Advanced Placement, they talk about it, and they break artists. And there's a band called Royal Otis that I listen to that, like, I think came out of nowhere, but their cover of the Cranberries' Linger is amazing. It's such a great song. Yeah, it's such a great song.
Yeah, it's but it's so funny though. It's just like, I ended up in that, and I did that for almost, for the better part of a decade, the last 10 years of my career. And it's just like, if I'm not at KYKX, then I don't end up in Dallas doing overnights. Then I don't end up in Birmingham, or at least, and the way it all kind of transpired, it's just like at the time, when I'm living in El Dorado, Arkansas, going, what did I do, to being in, the head of country at Sirius XM and overseeing it. Just, you look back on it and it just, we are so fortunate to have lived live at a time where we could work in this business. There are people that are born, now and in the next 5 or 10 years, we'll never know the business that we were fortunate to live the same time and then to be a part of it. Like it's crazy, but it's but I admire you guys too. Like I was a fan of Chuck. I mean, I was listening to you, well before I was in radio, and then to get the chance to work, I don't say alongside, parallel.
Yes.
It's been so when you guys reached out about this, Jeff Evans lives about but 45 minutes from me.
Yeah.
So he and I reconnected.
Good.
And it's so cool that you guys reached out. And I love that you guys are doing this. Your show is great.
Well, the interesting thing about this is we both kind of jumped into this, and Mandee and I talked about this for a long time about doing something like this, and I'd kind of just, I don't know. And then we jumped into it and kind of, maybe we had notions on it, but it's kind of just unraveled in a really nice way as far as who does what, how do we do this, what do we think this could be, And so, I don't know, I think in the back of our minds, we think, well, hopefully this becomes a bigger thing, but we never know. And that's kind of the adventure. It's like regular radio. That's the adventure.
Yeah. It's a journey.
No, sure. You asked me a story. What's one of your favorite or funniest radio stories?
My first radio gig, I was in Austin, Minnesota. And this would be in 1978. I was in my second year in the broadcast field. I'm doing nights. We have a tornado warning going on, and it's kind of a two-parter. So we have a tornado warning going on. All hands are on deck. My good friend Dan Conrad, was doing tornado play-by-play. And it's, like the suspended ceilings you have was rattling, and we were recording it so you can hear. I've got the original tapes stashed, and you can hear them rattling. And we make this point of saying, and it's also the bygone era of radio where everything was sponsored. This severe weather warning is being sponsored by Bob's Swap Shop. Go to Bob's and swap, because guess what? There may not be another tomorrow or something like that. But so we make this big point of saying, by the way, and we were KAUS AM and FM, and we would say, okay, now we may have to interrupt our coverage because we're going to be going to our second studio, which is down in the basement. So we may be doing this momentarily. And you hear a voice in back say, we can't, it's flooded. And then we go, in that case, we won't. And so we're doing the tornado thing. It's, we're a couple of kids, like 20 and 21. We're doing it. We get through the night. It probably starts at 8 o'clock and it ends about 1 a.m. But that Monday morning, our boss comes in and he says, our boss, Phil Nolan, says, I'd like to talk to you too. And well, okay. We were kind of wisecracking on the air because we were so nervous too. Things like, severe hail was happening. I would say, well, just so, my car can take the severe hail because it's a junker. No big deal. And Phil said, what's the matter with you two? I was in my basement listening to you two jokers, and we kind of went, oh, we kind of side-eyed each other. But we had gotten we got some faxes from the city saying you guys did a great job. And, and it was my first lesson in, whatever you do, musically, news, whatever. And when I programmed, I would say, when it comes to severe weather, that's when we put our public servant hat on, and it's like, I think, Mandee, correct me if I'm wrong. I think even when we worked together, didn't we do weather meetings still?
Oh, you were, yeah.
We would do weather meetings.
It was a priority. Weather meetings were a big deal.
Weather meeting would be probably,
if we knew something was going to break loose, like a hurricane. I think Hurricane Rita and Hurricane Ike rolled through when we were working together at the ranch, which were major disaster events just south of us.
Yes.
But we got the rain and remnants of it up in Northeast Texas. And so a lot of people were evacuating up to our area too. So yeah, we had Net Health on doing public service announcements and like we stayed at the station, like not overnight necessarily, but you did.
Yeah.
I was there pretty late one night.
Well, and I would always have a rule, no matter what happens, I need to know about it.
Yeah.
But there was one time, and this was just a complete, I don't think it was even hurricane related. We were getting some really, really, really bad weather. We lived in Chandler for about 30 years, but it was probably close to about 18 years ago. So Rosanna and me load up our dog. My mother-in-law, she grabs her niece who's pregnant, and we go to the radio station, and they're up front in the lobby. However, my wife has the wherewithal to go through a Church's chicken for a 20-piece because Rod Wayne is there. And to this day, it's the time that Rosanna ordered chicken for us. because as broadcasters, heaven forbid, we're going to miss a meal.
Right.
Of course.
But
Absolutely.
Oh, God.
Yes.
Yeah, but weather meeting, I can't tell you, even when, oh, my gosh. When I was at KNUE, I don't know if I've told you this one, Mandee. This is probably in the mid-90s, Amy Austin's programming. You've met Amy, I'm sure, right?
Oh, yeah, I know Amy very well.
America's sweetheart, my hero. So we're having a weather meeting, and we have one of this part-timer named Bob, and I forgot his last name.
So not Malden. We're going to make that
it's
clear.
not Bob Malden.
It's not
It's not Bob
Bob Malden.
Malden. It's not Bob Malden because we're doing this weather meeting, and it's like an all-staff one, which means Don Chaney is there. Don Chaney is there, and they hold up a picture of a tornado. So it's the classic tornado going like that. Swerving down. And so, and I think Amy said, of course we know what this is. And this part-timer says, it looks like a bull's dick. And we just have this, it's like one Mississippi. Then everybody starts laughing. This guy got fired after the meeting.
Well, yeah.
To the meeting.
Yeah, he didn't get. Well, I mean, it's comedy. We think it's great comedy, but Don Chaney did not appreciate it at all.
He ran a tight ship over there.
Oh yeah. Oh,
That was his favorite tornado picture that we got.
Oh my God! Looks like a bull dick. What? Oh God!
I was going to tell you something else I just thought about, unrelated to that, but maybe one of the reasons I didn't get off on the right foot at KYKX, but my first shift on KYKX, I did half the shift saying 101.5 KNUE without even realizing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I had been on KNUE. That was
Yeah.
that was just ingrained
Oh,
in
dear.
my head, Tyler radio. And so I'm live in the studio and doing my air shift, and somebody comes in. I know not somebody, one particular person.
Oh, we know who.
Came in.
We know.
Came in and was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, you've been saying 101.5 KNUE the entire afternoon. I'm like, they didn't realize it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no, have I really? And sure enough, like almost just every single break was 101.5 KNUA. And like,
That's
I don't
funny.
know.
JR, that's
Yeah.
funny.
I sure did.
I did it on mix one morning because I had been voice tracking multiple shifts.
Oh yeah.
And heard it. Somebody heard it and told me. I think it might have been a salesperson. I only did it one time, but
Well, at least
but
that's
it
in
went,
the same company.
Well, this is true. It wasn't the competitor, but
I wasn't saying my competition's callers.
right.
over-
Yeah, for
you
half
know,
an
they-
air shift. Wow.
Yeah. Nobody listening seemed to notice. Like nobody called me on the
Yeah.
people weren't calling in. Like
Well,
but,
they probably were flipping back and forth. I mean, realistically, the listeners were probably flipping back and forth to the station that wasn't playing a commercial at the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that particular day, KNUE had a great book, but
Too bad we didn't have a PPM to track it at that time.
Yeah, I remember I did when I was in Victoria once. We were doing a contest, and I was giving something away. I don't remember what it was, and we only had like I think maybe one or two phone lines into the studio, and it was early in the morning. I don't remember what the prize was, but I was giving it away, and so it's like, yeah, caller 9 wins, blah blah blah. So I'm answering, hi, caller 1, caller 2, caller, and I finally get to I was like, hey, Kicks 108, you're caller number 9. And they're great. I was also caller 1, 3, 6, and 8. And I'm like, well, you and that one other person that were trying to win this.
Yep. I don't know how many times I've heard that. Like, it happened a lot at the ranch, too. Like, you just have the same people that'll play. There's more people listening, obviously, but the same people want to play and win.
Oh yeah. I remember there was a promotional company called Win Radio, and it was they provided you with prizes and all in exchange for just a live read. There was no barter or anything else. You just had a short commercial that you would have to read when you gave the prize away, and they provided you with prizes. And in the brochure was cool prizes,
I'm getting
like
a tingling feeling.
all kinds of things. And so I convinced my program director to sign us up for this because I need prizes for my morning show, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, all right, fine. So we do it. The first prize arrives, and it is cases of Charmin toilet paper. And I mean, when I mean boxes floor to ceiling of Charmin toilet paper. Now, they promised name brand products with every delivery or whatever.
That's
but yeah,
hilarious.
they start bringing in these boxes of Charmin toilet paper, and I'm going, surely that's not for me.
Please.
What did you do with that? I mean, my creative mind is just running through all the like ridiculous silliness that you could do with that to give it away.
That's basically what I did because he made me give it away.
Well,
He's
yeah.
like,
What
"No,
else are you going to do?
You
with
asked for it.
Yeah.
Giving it away.
Yeah.
With everything we gave away, I would also throw in a package of Charmin, whatever the breed. Yeah. You want a pair of tickets to the rodeo and an 18-pack of Charmin ultra soft, blah 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 toilet paper. Yeah.
Oh man.
it? Classic.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
It was
man.
just. I'll never forget. When the UPS guy, he kept going out to the truck and getting boxes of this toilet paper, and I'm going, oh. My God.
Was that your only prize, JR? I mean, did they have any other Charmin products?
No, they only gave me toilet paper. Like that
Did you cancel the like relationship after that?
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
yeah.
That was the one and only
One and
promotion that I did with them and it took it took a minute to get rid of all the
I
toilet
bet.
paper. And I had to give every roll away. And and my boss wouldn't let me take it and give it away at a remote either. I had to give it away on the air.
Yeah, but
wanted it
could you
here?
squirrel some at the house?
So-
Well, no. Remember
I mean, it's useful. Yeah, we had a lot of Colgate toothpaste for
we
like
had,
8
we had the
years.
Colgate Country Showdown, and we looked at it this way. Well, I have good teeth at least.
Yeah.
Take some of this stuff home. And my wife, who is the swag queen. She would say, "Hey, you have any more of that Colgate boxes? That 8-pack of the little shorties there? Yes, dear. And bring them home." I know.
Oh yeah, like it's just. But those are the stories that one of. I did sports radio too in these small towns. We did the play-by-play, and one of my very first play-by-play experiences was calling the turkey race in Cuero, Texas. I did the play-by-play for the running of the turkey down Main Street, and the winner of that was the turkey Ruby Begonia. I'll never forget that from my entire life. Calling the play-by-play of the turkey race.
You don't even get that on the Ocho. I'm telling you. Wow.
Yeah. When they said turkey race, I thought it was like, surely they don't mean it. I thought it was like
people dressed as turkeys.
Yeah, people dressed something. Oh no. They back these trucks up, set the cages, and then they open the cage, the turkey runs out, and then they have these people behind the turkey with like brooms and rakes and noisemakers trying to guide the turkey down the street. One of the turkeys veers off into the crowd, which caused the whole thing. But yeah. One of my very first play-by-play experiences was the turkey race in Cuero, Texas. Yes.
What'd the winner get? Sherman?
Yeah.
We've got plenty of that, buddy. I've got some stashed.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, the last time I went through, it was a box of just radio memorabilia in the bottom.
You found some Colgate toothpaste.
I found some Colgate toothpaste, and I kind of gingerly opened it, took a quick sniff, and I go, "Okay, usable."
You used it too, didn't you?
Of course, you never can tell. You never can tell. You always, if it's free stuff, I mean, it's like when we'll talk about lunches being catered to the station, and we've got a couple young broadcasters. Well, I don't know if I'll be able to be there. I said, you don't understand. We're genetically programmed that if you say the words free and food, there's a nodule that just kind of clicks and you're there. It doesn't even matter what you're eating,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
The overnight guy would show up for a free lunch.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you wouldn't, if it's pizza, you wouldn't even ask if it's pizza. It's just, or what kind of pizza. Be like, well, is it greasy and it's flat? Okay, fine. I'm there.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about being at KYKX was during the Friday night sports show.
Oh, yeah.
Papacitas was catered in every Friday night.
Wow.
And yeah, maybe one of my favorite restaurants in East Texas. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was the redeeming quality for me on Friday nights was Papacitas.
You brought that up. That was one of probably, I was one of the original producers of that show.
I'm sorry.
I know, right? Like I was I turned 21 my first season with Harlan and Bob because they took me to the page, the sports page, for a drink the weekend I turned 21.
Yeah.
Which in retrospect, I'm like, what was I doing hanging out with those two yahoos at 21? Like it didn't ever occur to me because they were just coworkers. But like looking back, I'm like, that probably wasn't a very smart idea for
it was free drink, right?
But it was a free drink.
See, you got the DNA.
But that was way back before everything was sponsored, like officially. And it was on, at the time when I was producing it, it was on 95.3 KFRO because it was all Waller Broadcasting back then.
Right.
And they just started giving titles to things. Like Longview Lobo Stadium was Soapy Stadium because that was the car wash that Harlan had on the air at the time. And I really don't think there was any kind of like actual sponsorship sold. I think it was his way of like creating theater of the mind and giving some added value to his client with the thought of later, maybe I can actually sell this later if I'm giving it away for free now, which, is kind of brilliant. And also, I don't know that it was entirely like, okay, so he just got away with it.
What was the pitch like? So if you advertise with Kicks, we'll name a stadium after you? Is that how that works?
At least on their show, it was named that, right?
It's genius.
Yeah.
When I was in Woodville, our biggest sponsor was the funeral home.
Really?
Oh yeah, Riley Family Funeral Home in Woodville, Texas.
Okay.
And, they sponsored the every morning right about after about 7:30. I had to read the obituaries on the air.
No.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was and then brought to you by Riley Family Funeral Home. And then they wanted to sponsor and during the football season wanted to sponsor sports season the player of the game. Mm-hmm. And I finally was like, we can't you can't do, we got to draw the line somewhere, like you know, the
that could be really confusing.
Chuck McKinley, player of the game tonight, brought to you by Riley Family Funeral Home.
Thank you.
You really killed him out there tonight, Chuck.
I did.
Whatever.
But you know what, though? As strange as this, don't you think, though, that's what old time radio is?
Yeah.
The first radio station I worked at, where we had the sponsored severe thunderstorm. We also did we had 3 huge news blocks during the day. We were really day-parted musically. Mm-hmm. We played rock. We could bring our own albums even. We did pet finders. My dad used to just needle the hell out of me because the first thing I would say every night after Mutual News was 1480 KAUS, time now for pet finders. The old man did not give me a break on my broadcast career until I was probably 5 years into it. I was in Milwaukee radio a couple of years, and I'd send him air checks, and he would say, well, Charlie, you're sounding pretty good. Thank you, Dad. Thank you so much. Oh, golly.
That's so funny. I will say this about, since I name dropped him and without even thinking about it, the guy from the funeral home in Woodville was a guy, his name was Terry Riley. Probably, I'm sure it still is Terry Riley, but he had one of the, he was a great sport about it. Like the whole "you killed him" line or whatever, like those were his jokes. Like when he was trying to sell, it was like, make me fun or whatever. Like, but yeah, I will never forget Riley Family Funeral Home. And like I said, they were the biggest client, one of the biggest clients. Them and the furniture store were the 2 big clients. But hey, it's like, and then, Tradio and Swap Shop.
Oh gosh, yes.
It's its own thing, but there's nothing worse than hosting one of those when no one calls.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Remember Jeff Evans was telling us, wasn't Jeff was telling?
I think Jeff was telling that story.
I've never had to do
I didn't
that.
Either.
Oh, never had to do. I've dodged it a few times, but yeah.
Yeah, the Swap Shop, and it's just like, and no one calls in, and it's just like, is this thing even on? Is there anyone listening to this right now? But hear me.
I think one of the most challenging things I had to read on the air as a young broadcaster was the market report on Saturday morning on the ranch when I didn't have a clue, like what a heifer was. And I don't think I could read it correctly today. I figured it out because Chuck and Bob and Tom all explained to me what things were, but I'm pretty sure I bobbled it a few times.
Not at that time. I'll tell you why, because I didn't start to do any of that when I was at KTBB after 99.3 changed format. I was doing production, but I had to substitute to do news and had to do markets each hour. So I literally had to sit there and figure. I would listen and go, "Oh, that's what this is. That's what this is. Up, down, and all this stuff." So
that's like financial markets. I might have had a decent understanding of that. I'm talking about a livestock market report.
Maybe I did explain,
with cows and sheep and like, I just didn't have a clue there was something to do with like a mom and a baby that was being sold and it had a specific name and I can't remember what it is.
I think I probably
it's like 1.5 or something.
I think I probably had to do that. I had a worksheet for it because that's the only way that I could get through it. And I go, this is my worksheet. Just read it.
Just read the worksheet.
And then go home.
Yeah. You don't have to understand it.
No, we don't. It's kind of like, it's like hieroglyphics. It's like reading pyramids. You don't know what it is, but somebody does, but it's just not us.
Yeah.
And we will not be taking questions.
Correct.
Yes, exactly.
So, JR, tell us what you're doing now, because I feel like what I see on social media, which is probably just a teeny tiny bit of what you're doing, I feel like I've seen you working maybe with a film with Iron Claw and with some artists. Am I even like in the right realm?
Yeah. It's I technically I'm in management, so I'm artist. I'm in artist management, but I also have one of my clients are the Von Erich family.
Yes. Okay.
Wow.
So I have Kevin Von Erich, and I have his sons Ross and Marshall, and so yeah, when the movie came out, I was we were navigating them through.
Were you the press person, kind of like arranging press for them?
We had, or the movie company had their own, had hired a PR firm.
Oh,
to do
all right.
So I was just sort of there. I was sort of, the liaison between them and Kevin, and then just handled Kevin throughout all of it, got him to all the different places and whatever, and premieres and,
sure,
panels and all of that, which was really interesting.
I bet.
And we did the Hollywood premiere. Like, it was, really cool. Like, it was one of the more unique things. So I have the Von Erichs, and I manage a pop band called the Nicotine Dolls.
That's it. I remember
that. We're getting them off the ground, steadily releasing music and doing that. And then I manage a country act named Angie K.
That's what I saw you posting about. She was climbing the charts.
Yeah, and so we put out a song with her. She was actually an artist that I championed at the Highway when I was at XM. She was one of our Highway finds, and ended up 4 or 5 years later when I got into this. The stars kind of aligned, and she and I ended up working together, on this side of it now. I manage Hall of Fame songwriter Steve Dorff, who he did the score for the movie Pure Country.
Oh, wow.
And wrote Cross My Heart and Heartland and those, and did the score for that. He also did Every Which Way But Loose. Wow. And he did a bunch. And he's written a bunch of songs from everybody from Willie Nelson to Whitney Houston, Barbra. Right now, he's doing the Barbra Streisand is coming out with a record.
Really?
That's record. I hope I didn't just break that, but
our 40 listeners will keep it to themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, he's working on a duet with her. He and Barbra Streisand go way back, and so it's just it's funny. Like, I randomly met. He moved from LA to Nashville, and his son was also one of the biggest songwriters in Nashville, who ended up passing away tragically a few years ago. But, and so, I met Steve when he came to, I knew who he was. And then just a few months ago, he and I started talking about working together. And so now, I represent him and working on getting him into, theaters and performing arts centers where he'll go in and tell the stories behind the songs and play.
Awesome.
He wrote the theme song to the Growing Pains.
Really?
Show, Murphy Brown and just the 10 of us, like all the late 80s TV.
Sure. Wow.
Behind he did a couple of John Hughes movies, and
very cool.
So it's got this really interesting story and show. So I helping him with that. And then there's another girl I just started working with out of LA. She's more the pop scene, the indie pop scene, named Kaylee Shore, and who I actually was one of my first artists I championed at the Highway when she was a country artist, and now she's in the pop side. And so yeah, and then I'm involved in a bunch of different one-off projects here and there, and I consult on different things and, stay busy. But from the worldwide headquarters here in Mount Juliet, Tennessee.
Salute.
But yeah, it's I got into radio through my love and connection to the music. And so, if I was going to leave radio for anything, I had to be in music and connected to the music and the artist. And, this presented itself. It wasn't what I left radio to do. I actually left radio. I was going to started a developmental record label with one of the big labels in town. And right as we were getting ready to start that label went through major changes. The guy, very similar to the Sunny story I told you earlier, the guy that I was going to do that with suddenly was no longer in the picture. And with him went our whole idea and everything. And so then I sort of left, the guy left standing when the music stopped. And so I was like, well, and I already been working with the Nicotine Dolls at the time. And I was like, well, I'm just going to keep doing this. And so, and it's grown, and now I have a roster, and, and it's just like, I tell people, I'm trying to figure it out before they figure out I haven't figured it out.
That's fair.
But that's been my entire career.
Yeah.
I got jobs that I was the most surprised that I got the job, I think, than anybody else. But, but it's been great. Like and I love it. I work, obviously for myself and from home, and travel a lot. And it's never a dull moment, And I will tell you this. Everything that you think is crazy or nuts about radio pales in comparison to professional wrestling.
I believe
that.
Yes.
I feel like we should do another episode just on that. I have followed their story kind of a little bit over the years through various friends that followed wrestling really closely.
Yeah.
And then, when the movie was coming out, of course, wanted to see it and dug into some of the documentaries on YouTube and things like that. So it's a tragic and fascinating story. And then I worked with, John Roberts. Did you ever work with John Roberts, JR? Or did y'all pass?
I know John, and knew, but we never worked with John.
Okay. Well, John, years back, like in the 80s when they were wrestling, he was a part of like their promotional team. Sure. Way back. And so John had told me stories when I had the opportunity to work with him. And again, another person that passed too soon for us to have an opportunity to visit with, because he had some incredible stories as well.
Yeah. John, that was just a couple of years ago that he passed, wasn't it?
I believe it was 2020.
Yeah.
And it was not COVID related. He got sick. Right. I left the cluster at Town Square full time in July of 19. And he was diagnosed with, I believe, cancer. I can't remember I think it may have been his throat. Like the week I left.
Yeah.
It was so terrible. I had given them 6 weeks notice or something. And so I was kind of working my time out. And then the week I left, I was just devastated because I just thought the world of John. He was a great mentor and really a champion of me at Town Square for the time that we worked together. Yeah, he was extraordinary.
Yeah, like I said, it's very similar to Chuck. Like I was parallel to John in a couple of different instances, but I never really got to work with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, the wrestling business, it's wild. I mean, you watch the Dark Side of the Ring series or whatever, which is they did a whole thing on the Von Erichs, and you're watching this and you're like, oh, this has gotta be, exaggerated for TV. It can't really be that bad. And it really is, was. It's getting better now, but it's just like, the stuff that these guys went through. I mean, for little to no money. And, wrestling 300 days a year, driving city to city. And, and it just, and then when it became so competitive and when they started battling for TV rights, it's mind boggling. The stories that Kevin would talk about or tell about Fritz, and Fritz had the TV rights first.
Wow.
For all, he was the first guy to syndicate professional wrestling on TV, and and battling with the McMahons for territory and and TV territory and everything else, and it's just a brutal business. But you peel back a layer, and it's just guys and wow, now these guys are crazy lunatics, right? Most of them, you know, but you peel it back a level and it's just like, they're just guys people that are truly passionate about this thing and that they love more than anything, are willing to do anything to be a part of it and work for free, risk their lives for free, you know, and you know, and it's just like, you know, maybe not exactly a parallel to radio, but
fairly close though.
Fairly close, you know, and it's just, you know, so it's like, you know, I get it. And, you know, but it just, some of the stuff I've seen and learned and I'll tell you too, some of the most creative people that have ever been in entertainment, you know, and come ever in professional wrestling, from creating the storylines and doing, and they having the vision for it and doing, you know, all of it. Like, it's just, and also I learned, recently, just in doing, you know, the stuff with Kevin and these shows, you know, that more than half of the ticket buyers for major professional wrestling events are females.
Huh. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I've had a lot of people tell me it was their grandmother's favorite thing to watch on television. Like,
there's so many stories like that, where you have this sweet old lady doing the day, but put her in a wrestling match and she's ready to fight. You know? Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Wild. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing now. Thank you for asking. And it's been, like I said, it's fun, and it's, you know, all the craziness of radio, I think, prepared me on a level. Like, few things surprised me. Between EMS and radio, not much really surprises me anymore.
I believe that.
Now I can add professional wrestling to it. I think I've covered it.
That's some interesting jumps indeed. Big jumps. Wow.
The natural progression, you know. Yeah. EMS to radio and to professional wrestling. Wow. Isn't that what everyone does?
Sure.
For the most part, yes.
JR, this has been so fun. Can we do this again?
I would love to. I love you guys. And,
we'll have to sit there and put our stories together again, and you know, we appreciate you taking time. Hey, it's Saturday and it's your time down, and we get that too.
No, I've been looking forward to this. I was sad I couldn't do it the other week when Mandee had reached out, but glad that we were able to find today and make it work. And what's so funny is, Jeff Evans was at my house a few months ago and was talking about being on your show.
Really?
And, yeah. And he told me about the show, and I was sitting there, I was thinking, I was like, I want to do the show.
Well, you know, this is kind of just a little passion project, and it's mostly our friends that are listening, but we're, you know, we can't all be in a room together. It's hard to do these days. We're all spread out. Sure. You know, you guys are in Nashville, we're here, and some of the people that we've worked with over the years are still in the business, some aren't. And for me, this is an opportunity for us to kind of feel like we're in the room together, you know?
Yeah, sure.
I'd really love to get us all together at some point and have drinks and maybe do some kind of big round table, but that would take a lot of logistics.
A lot of mics.
A lot of logistics, some travel schedules,
not so
aligning
super
the stars.
Easy, I'm telling you.
No, not so super easy.
Hey, there it is. Oh, this has been fun.
Thank you.
This has been terrific. Thank you, JR. JR Schumann on the Unknown Morning Show. This has been another episode of The Unknown Morning Show.
I'm Mandee Montana.
And I'm Chuck McKinley.
This is our show to explore radio,
podcasting,
gear,
and the gearheads that use the gear,
and making money with a hot mic,
and other stuff in between.
We'd love for you to follow us on social media as well. Follow us on Facebook at The Unknown Morning Show and Instagram at The Unknown Morning Show. See us on YouTube at The Unknown Morning Show.
Thank you for listening to The Unknown Morning Show.
I'm Mandee Montana.
I'm Chuck McKinley. And remember, be kind and rewind.